Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Connor McGilligan channel. I am sandwiched between two football Goliaths in the space. We've got, these two can't see my layout, which has been an interesting sort of get together this morning. Matt, can you move your camera up? Ben, can you zoom out, zoom in? It's been chaos. But I'm joined by Benjamin Bloom and Matt SB for a regular show that we are going to be doing on this channel. Now, I've come up with a few names, and listen, three at the back was one that stood out for me. But listen, commenters in the section below, let us know what you think could be a good name for all of us. It can be a nice little interactive thing. But before we get into all the waffle and all the promoted sides and how they could potentially stay up, we'll go to one of our favourites on here, Benjamin Bloom. How are you doing, my friend? All good?
I'm good, mate. You completely stitched me up, speaking of size, on that thing we did in person where it was the chair that was small. But then I'm sitting down here and you look like bloody John Cena or something next to me. So I am not, according to the internet, 3 feet shorter and 4 feet narrower than Connor. But good morning, guys. And really been looking forward to this. We've been keeping this under wraps, haven't we? Great to. I sound like a stupid player interview. Great to finally get it over the line. Buzzing to get started.
Matt, all good?
Yeah, I'm great, mate. Looking forward to the new Premier League season. Good to get together with you two. We have had some fun and games, making sure we're all in shot, but we are now. And yeah, I'm excited. I know we're going to focus on the Premier League in general, but we probably will cover the three teams that have come up from the Championship predominantly. Maybe a name for the podcast, three at the bottom. Who knows? Let's hope not. Let's try and be positive today.
Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. And I guess talking about the newcomers then, Burnley, Sunderland and Leeds United, we were just speaking a little bit off air of the gargantuan task they've got of staying in the division. And it's been, at the beginning of the season, Ben, I was thinking to myself, do you know what? There could be Everton might be down there. You might get Wolves down there and Palace, who knows? And you see Palace beating Liverpool at the weekend, putting in a stellar performance. You see Wolves, who have made some good signings this window, and you see Everton bringing in Jack Grealish, Dewsbury Hall, Tieno Barry. It's going to be a strong task for all the three promoted, isn't it, mate?
It is demoralising, but we want to come with positivity. And I'm going to do something I don't normally do because I'm known for being rational and unbiased. But this season, I'm going to be completely biased because I am desperate for the good of bloody English football for one of Burnley, Leeds and Sunderland. Please stay up and stop this rot with the chasm between the EFL and the Premier League.
Yeah, if it needs it. It needs a refresh, I think. I wonder actually, Matt, if it got to it next season, if the Premier League would even take a look at it. Because if the three three go up, and you've got, it's not all massive clubs, but you look at the budget wise when it comes to Leeds in particular, with how much they were going to spend. Sunderland as well, when it comes to their PSR restrictions not really being there, you think to yourself, wow, this is a real opportunity now. And Burnley as well, of course, they'll fancy the chances. It's something's got to change, hasn't it, Matt, this season to start off with?
You'd hope so. I don't really know where we go from here if the three newly promoted teams all go back down again. Nine teams in a row that would be relegated. I quite like the mix that we've got on this panel, by the way, because obviously you've got Ben, who's got the previous experience of Ipswich just being in the Premier League. Connor, your pain. Yeah, the previous pain, the scars are there. Of course, Connor, your team's in there. From a Coventry perspective, it's interesting looking at it from the outside, because I'm very jealous of Leeds, Burnley and Sunderland when they get promoted and you see the parties. But when you get to the Premier League, maybe that's the bit I'm not so jealous of, just because it's so harsh and unforgiving. But hopefully we'll see a change. I'm sure we're going to come on to this point later, but obviously the three newly promoted teams need to do well. They need to at least get to a point per game to have a chance of staying up. But I do think the narrative will be around, will one of the established 17 have a poor season to give one of the newly promoted teams a chance of survival?
Yeah, it feels like that. And as we said, the first part of this is meeting the newcomers, and I guess a good team to start on. And everybody's writing them off, including me. Apology, Burnley fans, but I feel like there is Burnley fans are fighting against the tide a little bit here with automatically everybody saying that they're going to finish rock bottom. They've brought in Kyle Walker this season, Hartman from PSV, Armando Broja was one of which maybe, Burnley fans are quite excited with. Their opening fixtures are interesting, Ben. There's a lot of tough ones in there. And we were just speaking offline about a fast start being absolutely critical. When it comes to the newcomers, Burnley, what are your thoughts, mate, overall?
Well, the difficulty is what you want to happen is how they got to the party to then be able to be kind of transposed a division up. So, what did they do last year? If you weren't following, they literally conceded no goals, and the keeper has gone, and one of the centre halves has gone from that unbelievable, the best defence the EFL Championship's ever seen. So, hopefully that is not a problem. And this is something I struggle with a bit, Connor, because in the past, club size, and I know a lot of people talk about Burnley's history, but in terms of club size, people see Leeds and Sunderland as, kind of a bit bigger than Burnley. That made a lot of difference. And I think that's probably the reason, Connor, they get a bit forgotten in the conversation. That has never mattered less than now when, you mentioned the deals that Bournemouth and Brentford and whoever, their history can't...
Brighton, I guess.
Yeah,
Brighton
whose history can't touch Burnley, Leeds and Sunderland, for God's sake. 3 great historical clubs in English football. But yeah, in terms of Burnley, can they be as hard to beat as they were last season? Feels impossible, but can that be the thing that they leverage as their kind of unique skill?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be... I think it's going to be really unequivocally obvious what Burnley are going to do, and I don't think they're going to try and play some sort of attractive brand of football. They're going to stick in, they're going to be in a low block, and they're going to try and make it difficult for teams. And I think that's worked with Scotty Parker. I guess we could say, lads, that they've come up maybe a little bit better prepared. We know the Vincent Company was outstanding when it comes to extravagance going forward. They had a very good defensive record as well, let's not forget. But it was very much based on, fluidity out wide, interchangeable front four. They were very good. Feels right now that it's hardened a little bit, and Matt, maybe that could play into the favour.
Possibly. I mean, what we got bashed with last season by the media was these 3 newly promoted teams are not good enough defensively. That was the main thing. The pundits sort of poking holes at all the mistakes they made at the back. And for Burnley to come up with this record-breaking defence, if they go straight back down without a fight, then what does that say? I know, obviously, Trafford going out is a big loss, and they've lost Egan Riley as well. You touched on that they've done the most business. I think that was before we went live, but a lot of that is players that they had last season: Anthony, Edwards, Fleming coming back. So they have got this continuity, and I still think they're going to, like you say, play a low block and be hard to beat. It's difficult. It's so difficult to see how they're going to squeeze through.
Do you know what it is as well, mate? For me, it's their opening fixture. So they've got Spurs to start off with, which is going to be a nightmare. Immediately, you've got Sunderland in that second game, it's a must-win, isn't it, for both sides? But then after that, in order, Man United, Liverpool, Forest, City, Villa. And it's a tough run, isn't it? But you got to, like we said, you got to pick up some points in there now.
Well, I'd say Burnley's first 3 are maybe nicer on paper than Leeds' first 3, because I think, you look at Manchester United and Tottenham last season, certainly weren't perfect. I think we all expect a recovery this season, but like I said, they're not perfect. You can go there and get something. And going back to the point about club size, because I know some people are going to say, well, Sunderland and Leeds are going to be really hard grounds to go and get results, which could be true this season. But if you look at the teams that have come up over the last couple of seasons, the team that performed the best is Luton. Tiny stadium, 10,000. Maybe that's what Turf Moor could be about. A compact, small stadium might be more difficult. Maybe that's something they could play to their strength.
Yeah, in terms of, I guess, style-wise as well, Ben, when you look at it, the strengths you're expecting is for them to be a low block. When you look at Marcus Edwards coming in, because Zian Fleming coming in, Armando Broja, we look at their front line. Obviously, Brownhill being taken out of that, 18 goals last season, and we look at that step up, and we could Brownhill make that step up? It feels like it needs an in-between league, doesn't it, for the Championship and the Premier League for players like that to fit in. But are any of those going to be sort of huge holes in that Burnley side? It feels like with Trafford, Egan Riley and Brownhill, they are big misses, aren't they? And especially when it comes to goal contribution with Brownhill, of course.
Well, Trafford I already mentioned, who I think once we get a little bit of space and time will be considered the greatest ever goalkeeping season in Championship history. I think that'll end up being how he's referred to. The good thing is, and Ipswich had this a certain extent with Liam Delap. If you have a big burly forward who you can kick the ball in the channel to and get away from your goal, that's helpful. And if you have a player like Zian Fleming, who's got a really good long-range shot, and remember how Millwall used to play Zian Fleming, where it was like, right, okay, we're going to be quite pragmatic, but Zian, you can do what the hell you like. You can shoot from wherever you like. You can have as many shots as you like per game. So in some ways, that seems a very basic assessment. But in theory, all three of these teams are not going to be as good as the team they're playing literally every week of the season. So in some ways, the players you mentioned, Connor, that those individual qualities need to, in tight games, can you get Broja to beat up and grab a goal in a tight game, and can Fleming smash one in from 25 yards when you've not had any shots?
What do you think? And I'd be interested to ask both of you this question. It's just one that's come to the dome. What do you think newly promoted sides should prioritize when they come up to the Premier League? Is it physicality? Is it, I know they've got to combine all of this, but is it pace up top? Has it got to be a goalkeeper that you get in for? What is it that you've got to prioritize to almost give you the blueprint? Is it what Burnley are going to do and just almost prioritize that low block? What is it? What do you think?
You want to take that, Matt?
I would say that physicality is certainly a key point. We're going to come on to Leeds United in a bit, where they signed quite a lot of tall players and sort of in a similar age range in their late 20s, which I quite like that approach. I think what's quite exciting about the three newly promoted teams is they're all going to tackle this in a different way, which gives us a chance of maybe one of them getting out. If you have three teams coming up, all playing like a low block or all playing the same attacking kind of style, then maybe they all get brushed away together. But I quite like Leeds United going for quite a big setup, especially at the back. But I mean, all of them are going to have to rely on counter-attacking and probably play without a lot of the ball. That's just the nature of the Premier League.
Yeah, it feels like when you're looking at it as well, maybe Sunderland have prioritised what Sunderland have prioritised over the years when it comes to, the young players, the sell-on value. But obviously they've mixed that with Granit Xhaka and Ronaldo, the left back that they brought in for Atletico Madrid. But it feels like maybe they've prioritised that sell-on value. If they were to go down and young, exciting, exuberant players, I mean, have you got the perfect blueprint for it, Ben? Do you think what do you think someone should or a team should prioritise going up to the Premier League to give them just a distinct chance?
It sounds flippant to agree with you that you kind of just have to do all of it. But if we agree with the central premise that the PSR rules really screw over the promoted teams, don't they? Because your loss limits are carried over from their championship. So immediately you can spend less money than your opponents. Then this sounds, again, very basic, but maybe basics of what you need in the first season. It's cheaper to buy physical quality than technical quality, isn't it? A technical player is going to go into top 6 clubs. And I said this to you before, Connor, my experience was Premier League players are either incredibly good physically, incredibly good technically, or, shock of all horrors, both. So, yeah, if you can just do that technical side, and you talk about the blueprint, there's a brilliant interview with Thomas Frank. It's quite old now, but I watched it when he went out of Brentford with the fellow who presents Monday Night Football. And he literally lays it out. Physicality, set plays, home record, defence is the things Thomas Frank says. So maybe that's a good starting point.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think it's spot on. I think when you maybe look at Leeds, and it's probably good to pivot over that. I'm gonna let you guys go on with this. I'm sick of talking about this club, so I'll let you guys. I'll pivot to you guys for this one. Leeds, Matt was just mentioning the physicality side of the game. Brought in Jacobiel, 6'4", Anton Stack, 6'5", brought in the goalkeeper, 6'5", Longstaff, I think he's 6'2", 6'3".
Big Sam Farker.
Yeah, Metcha's come in, the striker, 6'2". So, they brought in others. Gabby Goodmanson, the left back, they brought in for he's around about 5'10", which is that tall for a left back. I don't know, it might be, I'm not sure, in the Premier League now. But yeah, it feels like they've definitely prioritised that, Matt, which is something you touched on a little bit earlier. And I think that's a good thing, but still so much more to do, it feels, to really compete. And I guess that's the slight worry, but it's a good starting point, isn't it? Of course.
Yeah, but like Ben was saying about set pieces, if you can shove a load of giants in the box, they're going to be able to get their head on it, aren't they? I mean, can we segue on to signings? Which one we
Of course
think
we
is
can.
a
Yeah, yeah.
standout? Because
Yeah.
not sure if he's going to be the best player for Leeds United, but I think certainly what could be the most important signing is the goalkeeper, Lucas Perry. We said this last season, kind of when I came on your channel towards the back end of the season. Leeds could have had 110, 111 points if it wasn't for a couple of mistakes from Meslier. So they've addressed that. It looks to be decent. Like I say, they're all in this similar range of 6'5" and 27 years old. They're all they're all about the same age and the same height. Decent distribution, decent save percentage. You're going to need that in the Premier League. Left back is an area, like you say, that probably did need strengthening. So Goodmanson coming in, but yeah, I like the height of this. Jakub maybe next to Rodon. You can imagine they're going to be pretty solid at the back, don't you think?
Matt? Yeah, I sort of agree with that, mate. Yeah, I think they've got to bring in, like I say, a little bit more exuberance going forward. But Ben, is that kind of the way forward? You've got 20 players profiles from 24 to 27. Some would say that in comparison to 19, 21-year-olds, it's better to bring those sorts of players in because they've got the experience. They can just immediately fit in. They've played in top leagues. I mean, where do you stand around that in Leeds United?
Well, I agree with that on Longstaff for sure, because that was a stick that the promoted teams, as well as the defensive, this earth-shattering realization for the mainstream media that bad teams concede more goals than good teams. I mean, go figure, guys. But
Crazy.
Was the get Premier League experience in, and unfortunately, the way Ipswich did it was, with a kind of damaged Calvin Phillips who was trending down in his career, whereas Longstaff looks like right in the middle of it. If I can, to maybe back to you, Connor, I know you're avoiding Leeds, but if I can play devil's advocate slightly, Daniel Farke, his strength, when you compare the three managers, Lebris, Parker and Farke, you would say, which are the managers that are good at setting up to succeed defensively? You'd say, well, Lebris definitely did that in the playoffs last season brilliantly and at times during the regular season. And obviously Parker, produce those defensive numbers. You would say Daniel Farke's strength is pattern of play, keeping the ball, grinding teams down. He has exciting teams that score lots and lots of goals, have lots and lots of possession. So as much as we are extolling the virtues of physicality and being good defensively, there's no point having a manager who's got those strengths and then jacking all of that in. And when you actually look at it, Connor, in terms of like mega star players, last season, Leeds aren't taking anyone up who it's like, right, he's going to score all the goals. And there's an argument they did it without essentially I know Piru golden booted, but that was a kind of, long story with Farke and not necessarily fancying him. So my point back to you would be, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater in terms of just throwing away what's got Leeds to the party. Do you agree?
Yes, yeah, I think we've seen it previously, haven't we? Where maybe the nucleus of these sides, when it's ripped apart, that is a big problem because there's continuity, momentum, consistency, but there's a camaraderie as well, isn't there, when it comes to going up? And I always feel when you go up, Nottingham Forest aside, and rip that whole sort of hymn sheet up, that's where the problems start, to be honest with you. So I agree. I like as well what Matt said about taking advantage of these set pieces. What I would say about Leeds in pre-season is maybe, crazily enough, lads, because I know we're EFL aficionados as well, crazy how electric Leeds were on the counter-attack, and all of a sudden against these big teams, all of a sudden Villarreal, AC Milan, Man United, the pace isn't quite there anymore. It's interesting how you're coming up against these players, these fullbacks, and all of a sudden that transitional element Leeds had to their game has gone downhill a little bit.
Connor, I always say the average Premier League fullback would probably be the best central midfielder in the Championship.
Yeah, probably,
do you know what I mean?
100%.
That's the level. Sorry, carry on, mate.
No, completely agree. I guess it's going to be. This is such an interesting one as well. I don't know what to make of Sunderland. I have no idea. The signings that they've made look really good on paper, a lot of raw talent. The AFCON thing is, I guess, a big thing. But, as the point has been made to me several times, they play a lot of big teams in there. But I think they've still got Palace in there. I think they've still got Leeds United at home. So there's a few games of which you're looking at and thinking they could pick up points there. All those, I think 6 signings go out to AFCON, maybe even 7. Sunderland fans, let us know in the comment section, but I'm not 100% sure. Could that be a bit of an issue? They've got a good start when you look at. They've got West Ham on the opening day, which we'll get into, but then they've got Burnley, of which I think is at home as well, which they'll fancy. So yeah, they've got Brentford in there as well to start off with. So Sunderland have got a good start to it. We just mentioned the fast start being unequivocally important. What lads? What do you make? Matt, what do you make of Sunderland? I don't know what to say about them, to be honest. It looks like a good window, but I'm just not sure.
I mean, I think they're probably the most difficult team to predict out of the three coming up because they are the big sort of unknown. Leeds and Burnley have had more recent experience in the Premier League, and the manager as well. Of course, Parker and Farker have dipped their toes in the Premier League, but it's difficult with Labrie as well. I think he caught everyone by surprise last season. No one had Sunderland to finish in the top four. Well, I suppose Gab Sutton did, didn't he? But
Gab hasn't shut up about it either, and I would say that to his face.
Labrie, of course, did fantastic, and I think the thing that I've said this whole time is Sunderland have to do the most transfer business out of these three because they didn't have as much depth as Leeds and Burnley. Also, the results. I know they were 24 points behind Leeds and Burnley. I know the Sunderland fans will say, well, we were right with them and then sort of fell away, but we prioritised the playoffs. But the sort of spike in performances was a bit unusual. Sunderland were very capable of getting something against Leeds and then sort of losing a silly game down towards the bottom of the table, whereas Burnley were quite consistent, grinding out 1-0 wins. I wonder if that's a good thing going into the Premier League. If Sunderland can be a streaky team where maybe they pick up 5 points in 3 games and then lose the next 3, but do you know what I mean? As long as they keep moving at some point. The unpredictability. I mean, I haven't really spoken about any weaknesses with Leeds and Burnley. I think maybe depth in defensive midfield for Burnley, and going forwards, I want to see Leeds bring in 1 or 2 more players. Defensively is where I've got a few question marks over Sunderland, just the depth of it. I think the signings of Adingra, Xhaka, Lefay coming back, they're all great signings. Midfield going forwards, I think they're going to be okay. Other than Dan Ballard, I think their back line is quite weak at the moment, but granted, the transfer window is still open.
Yeah, it feels like with Sunderland, it is the rear guard, isn't it? When you're kind of looking at they've definitely prioritised going forward, which is interesting, I guess. When you look at Leeds as another example, I think Leeds have prioritised the back line really, and just the players in front of it when it comes to central midfielders as well. But yeah, I guess Labrie as well, Ben, is a bit of a question mark, isn't he? We've seen sort of Scotty Parker, we've seen Daniel Farker. That might be a bad thing. It probably is a bad thing, to be honest, when you look at that. But Labrie is a bit of an unknown quantity, isn't he, at this level?
Well, you're right. Sometimes we maybe naively, because we have no evidence of something, we assume that it's all gonna work out well. But I mean, what a job though to get Sunderland up. And it was, I know, Matt, you lot were on the receiving end in the playoffs, but it was proper tactical tournament football stuff. I know that won't keep you in the Premier League, but what that will do is if you do have this thing of and I mentioned Big Sam again for the second time this show, where you identify this game, this is the 3-pointer, and you approach that like a tournament game. Well, maybe if they do that. To your point, Connor, about where people are strengthening, it kind of stands to reason in the respect that Leeds and Burnley have been up before and are seen as more established Premier League clubs, that they would be thinking about, right, this season, defence, da-di-da. Sunderland are going to get the same comments that Ipswich did last year of, okay, you're happy to be here, build the club, in which case you're building star power, so you invest in attacking assets, don't you? Because they appreciate the most. And yeah, Amari Hutchinson or Liam Delap or Jaden Philogene might not keep you in the Premier League, but they're then either going to really boost the balance sheet in the Championship or boost the the goal contributions metrics in the Championship. So maybe, and I did hate it though when people said that about Ipswich. Oh yeah, just enjoy yourself, build your club up, build some stars, and come back, and we'll see you in a couple of years. But as much as it annoyed me, Connor, where are Ipswich right now?
That's completely true. Yeah, 100% is. I guess from that perspective, I mean, unfortunately, we can't come to Matt. Apologies for this, Matt. But when it is the Ipswich look ahead, and I guess reflecting on that, Ben, was it? Do you think overall, because there's and you've just been speaking about the narrative being spun about all of these clubs coming up and the media saying this, that, and the other. Do you think the issue maybe with Ipswich was that they just couldn't attract that next bracket, caliber, which would have kept them up, because it feels like to get into that middle class of the Premier League now, we spoke about your Palace, Bournemouth, Brentford, Brighton, to get into that middle class, you can't be looking at players of which, in my personal opinion, are just scraping that barrel. You've got to go for these players, and these players have agents and they'll be waiting for the bigger clubs. So you kind of, at some point, you have to maybe go down a level, and that could be the biggest problem, couldn't it?
It's so frustrating, isn't it, Connor? It's like losing a 100-meter running race and someone going, "Well, just run faster." I'm trying my absolute hardest here to run as fast as just go faster. He's going that fast. If you go faster, you'll win. And it's like, yeah, agents' fees and attracting the players as well. Connor, do our agents really pushing their players who are Premier League ready to go to a newly promoted club? It doesn't feel a lot like they are.
Ben, has that also been damaged by, me and Matt were just talking off air about the landscape now of the 6 promoted teams that have come up and gone straight back down? If you're a foreign player or an agent, you're looking at it and going, absolutely no way.
Well, and also, Connor, you talked about your hybrid purgatory league in between the Premier League and the Champ. They've started trading between each other, these clubs as well, haven't they? So that's already kind of existing. What I will say, I mean, this is not about Ipswich, although we'll talk about various things across the season and each and every week on this show. Sunderland didn't go back-to-back promotions. Sunderland do have a good core of young players who are developing as we go. Sunderland do have a big stadium with nice gate receipts and presumably good commercial revenues. And Sunderland, unlike Ipswich, hadn't been 20 years outside of the Premier League. So there's a few things where it becomes a bit of an apples to oranges comparison. And that's not just me trying to go to bat for Ipswich. That's me trying to be positive about Sunderland and some, extra spice they might have.
Yeah, I mean, we've got down here on the notes as well, sort of a player from each promoted club that could thrive and be important. I guess if I'm to go across the pack, just off the top of my head, really, that's preparation for you people. But if I'm to go, just across the 3 teams, I think Armando Broja would be huge for Burnley if he can perform. He can get back to that level that he was at Southampton, which feels like it's been a long time since, really. I think that'd be.
What about Esteve, Connor, for Burnley? Is that be a good one?
Yes. Well, that can be yours, can't it? There you go.
Oh, am I not? Sorry, I will shut up.
No. I think, but Broja performs if they get him to a level. It was probably a sign of which I can't imagine many would have been in for because of his recent history. But
the injury stuff,
yeah. Could he become a little bit of a player for Burnley in that final third? We'll have to wait and see. I'm probably going to go with him for Sunderland. I'm going to go with the really obvious one, the one in the middle, Xhaka. I think he's just going to be just knitting that Sunderland side together when it comes to experience. He's going to be huge because there's so many kids there. Kids, by the way, who've come up with them from the Championship as well. You look at Trey Hume, Patterson, you look at Dan Ballard. It's a young team, a really young team. Neil in the middle, etc., etc. Leeds, I think we are going to have a task, Leeds United, even in January, of keeping hold of Anton Stack. I think I've been that impressed with him. I think, yeah, he shouldn't be at Leeds, put it that way. So
good.
That's a good thing, though. That's a good
big
thing.
Thumbs up from me.
Yeah. So Matt, they're kind of my 3, mate, of what I'd be looking at. What about yourself, mate?
Yeah, no, I already peeled back the curtain on Lucas Perry. I just think because of the fact that they had to address the goalkeeping situation, and it looks to be a really decent one, doesn't it? Of course, he's playing for Lyon last season. For Sunderland, I'm going to say Snap because I've gone for Xhaka as well. Might not come as a massive surprise. We said about Premier League experience, of course, spent 7 seasons at Arsenal. I think he's going to be really crucial to how Sunderland play, sitting in while they try and counter. Of course, he'll be reading the game.
You've got to have Premier League experience, Matt.
And they've got a dinger as well, Ben. They've got 2 that are ticking the boxes here. And then for Burnley, I was a bit unsure. I've gone for Ugachukwu. Spent last season on loan at Southampton. So
he scored against Ipswich at Portman Road, didn't he?
Was one of their better players as well.
That's damning with fake praise, Connor.
but you know what, lads, it's Premier League experience. He scored I think he scored at West Ham as well, didn't he? Because they got a draw there last season.
All the classics.
Yeah, decent tackles, ball recovery, decent numbers on those. So yeah, probably sitting quite nicely for Burnley's midfield. Sorry,
Benjamin.
Well, I'll try and go with players that were in the EFL last season to
Of course you will.
be on brand here and give a different angle. So Esteve obviously is a player, an example of a player that you managed to keep when you're a parachute team. And I know they had him on loan and managed to do the deal and get a good season out in the Championship. So I'll go for Enzo Lefebvre then for Sunderland for that reason. That can you do that deal where you can get this player on loan, obligation to buy, then you can have a cheat code in the Championship and, someone who would be really useful in the Premier League. And then this is half a comment and half a question to you, Connor. Ampadu. So he's been this guy that was through the youth systems. Everyone, maybe it was because of his massive hair he used to have, but everyone knew about him when he was young. And then he was kind of unfairly the butt of jokes because he would go on loan and get relegated. But come on. You want physicality, experience, continuity, leadership, captain in the middle. Surely he's Leeds' most significant player stepping up from the EFL.
Yeah, captain as well. I know it doesn't go that far. Captaincy nowadays, it feels like they can switch between games, doesn't it? It's not the days of, Vieira and Keane and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, he's a very important player. I think I agree with you, but I think physicality is massive. It's absolutely massive. And I think Ampadu has shown playing centre-back and central midfield, he can do both sides to it. And he's going to surprise a lot of people, Ben. I think technically he's a very good player. And because he plays at centre-back, he doesn't get a lot of the flowers as well, right? He doesn't get a lot of the ball playing. It's the toughest position on the pitch for me, central midfield. I think it's so tough. You get so little space. And yeah, I think he'll really equip quite nicely as well. It'll be interesting to see if Leeds go for a 3. Maybe he'll have a little bit more protection in that midfield as well. But yes,
Ipswich never did that, and they really should have.
They should have, yeah. I think a 3's at 3. You just get protection, and you can vary it, can't you? Go to 2 8s, 2 6s. It's interesting. So, what was your so Sunderland? You've gone with Enzo Lefebvre. With Burnley, you've gone with Esteve. With Leeds, you've gone Ampadu. Like it, man. I love that EFL. We've just gone for the new hot shot transfers. There you go, scumbags. So yeah, we spoke about the historical patterns and how promoted teams stay up. Is it as basic to say that this is the really depressing thing to say. I've always, from a Sunderland perspective, from a Burnley perspective, from a Leeds perspective, they have to beat each other twice, right? That's got to be the bare minimum. They have to beat each other. That's 12 points. Is the gauge now realistically 40 points? It's got to be 40 points. Is that what we're looking at now?
I'll dive in. I suppose it depends on who does what from the 17, doesn't it? Because if they all keep performing as they have done over the last couple of seasons, then you might even have to sneak past 40 points. I don't know what Tottenham got last season when they were 17th. There's probably 42 or something. But
it was 42.
I will repeat that point that unless we get a little collapse, I'm not saying we have to have a major collapse, but if one of them could just fall below 40 points, like a Wolves or a Brentford, then that gives Leeds, Sunderland or Burnley a chance. And I do think it's really important to stay ahead of the curve and try and be ahead of a point per game if possible. It's just a nightmare playing catch up and going into those final 10 games. You could be down before before March, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I sort of agree with that. The interesting thing's going to be as well, lads, I think the winter challenges, because you get into that period, don't you, in around sort of December, and you're playing more games, and that's going to be so important, isn't it, for the promoted? And I guess the caveat you'd throw in there is Sunderland in and around that period have got AFCON, haven't they, where a lot of their players are going to be going off.
Well, one point I would make is, can you get nice fixtures at home against one of the many teams playing in Europe on a Sunday afternoon? Because Matt and I discussed this a lot last season. You do get a little bit of a drop off. Just in terms of just pure maths on the 40 points thing, the only way it's 40 points is if you do get 3 adrift and a massive chasm. So I think by virtue of the fact of even one of them staying up, it would have to look like a table that doesn't have that chasm in. So do you see what I'm saying? That would brings the total more towards the 35, which it has been. And last season was obviously just heinous. But I mean, we want to be positive. We want people to enjoy watching this show, Connor. But are you looking for a points deduction, at least 2 managerial sackings, and maybe we don't want any footballers ever to get injured, but an injury crisis or an injury to a key player to drag in one of the 17 to that mid 30-point range?
I would say as well, Ben, carrying on from that point, that you probably want, from Connor's perspective as a Leeds fan coming up, you probably want the other teams coming up to be giving it as good a go as well. Because
bring the whole tide down. Yeah, good point. Yeah,
make a sandwich out of it. Because if you're watching from a Leeds perspective, Burnley versus Brentford, you probably want Burnley to get something from that. You don't want Brentford and Wolves to be pulling away from all of you. You want Burnley and Sunderland to be trying to drag them down with you.
Totally agree.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I've not thought about it like that. Maybe you kind of do, don't you? But in terms of periphery teams, who do you think they're going to be? So we've obviously got Sunderland, Burnley, Leeds, but who realistically do you think the three promoted teams will be able to drag in? I guess the obvious names are West Ham, aren't they? It's Brentford under Keith Andrews. Keith Andrews. Ben, what do you reckon?
I mean, Brentford's the one that everyone's kind of screaming at because you've got this, hopefully for the promoted teams, double concoction of long-serving manager, long successful period, lots of change and, all of that good stuff. I'm sure I'll be wrong about this, Connor, but is there any chance Brentford, Fulham, Brighton, Bournemouth, who've all just been brilliant, and I know Pep Guardiola's argument that the middle table Premier League teams are now like when we were growing up, like UEFA Cup teams,
it's
the
true.
best.
It is true.
Yeah,
it's true.
But could one of those fall off, or are they all just too good?
You've got to look at Brentford, haven't you? I mean, I've just seen today that they're looking at Tuaro and Bournemouth. They're looking at Callum Wendo, who was one of the top players in Liga last season, as a Vissa replacement. I think the interesting thing about all of this, really, especially when you're looking at Brentford, is I think if Keith Andrews comes in and he's a coach, he's a really good coach, that's absolutely fine. Because I think a lot of what Brentford do, I think a lot of these Moneyball clubs, it's just sporting director led. Everything.
But Connor, Frank was so charismatic, though, wasn't he?
Well, it's charismatic as well. He'd adapt his formations as well. He was very pragmatic. Against a lot of the good teams, he'd play a 4-3-3. A lot of against the bad teams, he play a 4-3-3. A lot of the good teams, he play a 3-5-2. So he varied it up every single time. It was a nightmare going down to Brentford as well. So yeah, there is something there for Frank in terms of him leaving and them going for Keith Andrews. We've got to pray on that, lads. I mean, they're the ones. I think West Ham under Graham Potter, if they keep him for a full season, I've never been convinced on Graham Potter, to be honest with you. So that's something I'm looking at. But there is the Jared Bowen effect, isn't there? Just consistently with West Ham. So, lads, you're not giving me any names here. You just.
Well, my bottom six, Connor, because I've already done my table prediction. I got West Ham 15th. I got Brentford 16th. I got Leeds 17th, and then I got Wolves 18th.
Wolves.
Yeah, Sunderland 19th, Burnley 20th. But honestly, with that 6, I could have put them in a bag and shook it and pulled them out randomly again because. I mean, I think it's going to be difficult to see more than one newly promoted team survive, just given the patterns of the last few seasons. I hope I'm wrong, but even one would still be some prize. I think we'd take that right now. I know you'd take, obviously, it being Leeds, Connor, but me and Ben would take just one at this point, wouldn't we, after the last couple of seasons? I got question marks over West Ham. I don't think there's continuity, and their away game at Sunderland could be interesting. I think Sunderland's first 3 games, we'll find out a lot about them just from the first 3. Brentford, I think, are taking the biggest risk out of those clubs like Brentford, Brighton, Bournemouth, just because of all the players going out and the manager. One thing I will say, though, is with Thomas Frank, I know he'd managed in Denmark for a few years, but I wasn't really aware of who he was before he came into Brentford. Keith Andrews, we know, set-piece coach, but he could be brilliant. Brentford's recruitment is always just proves to be better than what we all expected. And I think you said before we went live, Connor, that they've still got a few players lined up to come in. Wolves... I could see Wolves not being in the bottom 3. I was just I think there's a way in which they could, just because of the players that have gone out. I know Cunha's not actually as big a loss as some people might make out because they played well without him in spells last season, but Aït-Nouri's a big loss.
So I've got them like 11th, 12th.
Oh, there you go. You could be right, honestly. I'm not sure. Like I say, you could shake them up and do it again. Honestly, it could be close.
Yeah. It really could be. Well, let's get on to the games anyway, lads, because I know that's what people are hanging around for. So obviously we'll start off with Burnley, because that's what we started off with initially. Burnley going down to London for a really easy fixture, Ben, against Tottenham Hotspur.
Well, I mean, on the one hand, you've got the fact there's a new manager as a big, horrible, hard thing. But on the other hand, there's a new manager. There's no Son Heung-min anymore. James Maddison's got a long-term injury. Obviously, Thomas Frank would have, been praying, right, I want a newly promoted team at home for my first game. But, I mean, pattern of play should be more established at Burnley than it is at Spurs, regardless of lots of signings. So you get a clean sheet down there, Connor?
Yeah, and I think a lot of clubs. I know it was Ange, wasn't it? It was completely different, but a lot of teams went down there and gave Spurs a bit of a punch in the nose, didn't they, in terms of competition.
Oh, Ipswich won there. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Is it
So
worth saying as well, lads? Sorry, that tomorrow night Tottenham are playing in Italy in the Super Cup against PSG. So just a couple of days between that, and they'll go strong in that for the Super Cup final against PSG. So that could certainly take it out of them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously the star-studded team, aren't they, Tottenham? But once again, it's going to be so interesting to watch Burnley, see how they approach this game. Are they even going to be bothered about going forward? Are they going to be in a low block? It just feels like they're not going to come out of that. And I think that's the way all the teams are going to have to go up against some of these top sides as well. So, yeah, 11 at the back. But I can't help but look past. I don't think Burnley are going to win this game, lads. As much as we give them the arm around the shoulder, I think it's going to be very, very difficult. I think Tottenham have got two squads, really, haven't they, that they could put out there and probably be highly competitive in the Premier League.
I'll be hyper positive and say 0-0.
Point on the board.
Get a point on the board. Get to a point per game. Clean sheet.
Yeah.
Oh, they'd take that going into Sunderland at home the next game as well, wouldn't they?
I'm going to write these down because some of them are going to be comical. Ben's gone 0-0. Matt, go on, mate. What are you going for this one?
I'll go 2-1 Tottenham. I think maybe Burnley take the lead. And
Love
as
it.
Ben said, Son...
Own goal?
Yeah, possibly, yeah. But Son's gone.
Deflection.
Madison, long-term injury. So I'm not, and probably a settling period needed for Frank as well. So I think Burnley will give it a go. They won't disgrace themselves. I don't see them conceding loads of goals. I'll go for a close game, but 2-1 Spurs.
Okay, I'm going 3-0 Spurs. Okay, let's move on. Sorry, lads. I need to learn this sort of thing in the middle where I'm giving everybody, a chance. I'm just ruthless with it, really. Okay, so then we'll move on to. Well, we'll go to Sunderland, I guess, because Leeds are the last game of the weekend, aren't they? So we'll go to Sunderland. This feels huge. This feels like a massive game for Sunderland. Sunderland have got two massive games to start off with, obviously West Ham and then Burnley. Matt, it's a real opportunity. We're just talking about those fast starts as well at the beginning.
It is, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you don't want to be Sunderland losing this, then going away to Burnley and feel like you need to get the win. They got Brentford the following week. So
you go for a round 2 must-win game there, Matt. Hype it up for me.
What did you say earlier, Ben? You've got to beat the teams down at the bottom twice this season.
Connor said that, yeah.
Oh, Connor, sorry, yeah. So, yeah, no, I mean, look, on paper, you're probably like, oh, yes, I like this as a Sunderland fan. We could start scoring points early, but you don't want to count your points before you got them.
You've got to target, in my opinion. It's why I'm kind of quite ruthless with it. But you've got to target certain games this season at home, surely as must wins. You have to. And West Ham have got to be one of those, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because obviously, like we said, the first 3 games might look all right on paper, but we know what comes after that: Man City, Liverpool, and you don't want to be going into those games needing a result. I'll go 2-2. I'll go for a share of the spoils. I think Sunderland have a bit more togetherness. They certainly have the momentum, but West Ham, Premier League quality, maybe Jared Bowen will get a goal or 2.
Come with a Desmond, like it. Ben?
Yeah, I'll double up on the Desmond and be super, super positive. I'm allowed to match Matt's prediction. What we'll say about the home and away thing, and sorry, I'm going to talk about Ipswich again. Ipswich were pathetic at home last season. They were actually better away from home than they were. And what you want your home games to look raucous and chaotic and be really awkward, not all nice and get ready, Leeds, Sunderland and Burnley fans, to watch star players from big sides referee the game for you as well. They're very good at controlling the whole kind of, they don't like being tackled, and that's what you want. You want to kind of beat up on them. But you want the away games, you want complacency, you want it to feel sterile, and you can, they're just turning up to beat poor little Burnley or Sunderland or Leeds or whoever, and, go and surprise them and go and take it. So it's just a bit of a weird kind of flip around. But yeah, I'll match Matt's prediction, but I'll go for some heartbreak. It'll be like Like, I don't know, they'll bring Bowen in and he'll score in the 98th minute or something to deny him the win.
Killer. So are you going? So what are you going for there, mate?
Oh,
2-2.
am I allowed to match him? Yeah, I'll go
Course you
2-2
are,
as well. Yeah.
2-2. I'm going to go with. God. I think Sunderland they've got a lot of new players, and it might take a little bit of time to mesh. I look at West Ham, and I think they're going to be in around the bottom, and I don't think this will be defining for Sunderland. I think this is going to be tough. As Ben's quite rightly said, it's just Jarrod Bowen. I think Jarrod Bowen is such a problem, and obviously they've got Paqueta still, haven't they? It's just going to be a huge. I can see it being very tight, but Connor's not doing well for these promoted sides in the first game week. Thank God for you two. I'm going to go with a 1-0 West Ham Bowen winner. Yeah. Do we give Sunderland a goal just for the cheer, maybe?
I mean, we've given them 4 between us, so
it's true. Yeah, that is true.
Up the Black Cats.
Yeah. I think we'll have a lot of people who are unsubscribing after this. Right. Okay. Let's move on to the last game of the window. Then, well, I can't give a win here, can I, after the previous two? But we'll come to you first, Ben. Leeds United taking on the Toffees. The Toffees, by the way, who have just somehow revitalised that front four. Dewsbury Hall coming in. Jack Grealish looks like it's signed, sealed, and delivered. Obviously, Illiman and Jai been in there anyway. Tieno Barry up top. It's a bit of a resurgence, it feels, for Everton at this moment in time, Ben, with David Moyes at the helm.
Well, I've always said that Ellen Road is like the worst thing about Leeds, but can be the best thing about Leeds. It can be an extra spring in their step or a big anchor hanging on all the players. I'm glad it's a Monday night. I need the sun to set. I need Ellen Road to be really bloody noisy. I need them to. Do you remember when Grealish used to go over and take corners over in that little bit where the corners
this will happen again.
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm here for. This kind of juvenile behaviour. Although Grealish bloody loves it, doesn't he? When he's the centre of attention. But come on, surely we can get a home win out of this one, can't we? Give me a really tight, and I want the XG combined to be under 1 for both teams and a 1-0 win for Leeds. And if you're giving me Land of the Giants, I want it to be ugly as sin. Horrible match. Leeds 1-0. Come on. I've got unbeaten.
Okay, because I've got to do this as well for Sunderland. I'm going Sunderland 1-1. I can't do this where they're all getting battered. They're all getting beaten on the first day. I've gone something completely different with Callum Fowler, but because you've got me hyped up and I'm apparently now a passion merchant, I'm going to go with a 2-1 Leeds win. That's all your fault, Ben.
That's what I'm talking about.
And there we go. On another video, it might be 2-2.
Oh, I always do that, Connor. I give different. I find it quite funny. One day, someone will clip me up doing the different outcome for over 3 different
big game for Leeds. A really big game. I think before the Grealish sign and maybe the Dewsbury Hall sign, I was thinking that you've got to beat your Evertons as well, but all of a sudden it feels like Everton might be looking up rather than down. Matt?
Yeah, Everton are a different kettle of fish now than they were a couple of years ago. 2-3 years ago, they were the team you wanted to pull in, but they're going to be sort of shooting for the stars this season. Their business has been really good. I don't know. I'll just go with what I've gone for in my predictions video. I've gone for a 1-1. I think Everton are, pretty smart under David Moyes at game management, and they'll be able to sort of try and control that crowd. As Ben says, when the Leeds fans get going, they can really get going. But if Everton were to go get 2 goals in the first 10 minutes, then they can really sort of silence that crowd. But if Leeds can hang on in there, I reckon they might get a draw. Thing is, though, Connor, we've looked at the fixtures. They got Arsenal and then Newcastle. So even though I say Everton are good,
is it a must-win, Matt?
It must be. It must win in the first. In the first 3, I think it's the one you'd target, right, Connor?
It's got to be. Yeah. After that, they've got Fulham away and Wolves away. Yeah. After that, Ben, what did you go for, mate? Sorry.
1-0 Leeds in an incredibly ugly game.
Okay, Matt, you're so negative, mate. I'm sick of you being on this channel already.
Right, it's unbeaten from all of us, though.
That is true.
Is it actually?
No, it's not.
You can tell it's round 1.
I did a slight Burnley losing. You guys are doing all the positivity, and they might just lose. Connor went with
mate. Wait till you get into the winter. It gets really draining then.
That's it. Well, guys, thank you to the fellas for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. Listen, we are looking for a name for this. We're going to be going throughout the full season, so you guys let us know in the comment section below what you think. 3 at the back. Then would we be defenders?
You're not feeling it?
Would we be defenders? I don't know. I played
Well,
defense
I'm too
before.
small, apparently.
3 up top. We go 3 up top.
Ben, you be the Luke 09. Then we're
Oh,
going
he's a S-house, isn't he? So I'm just all mouth. Now, Luke 09 is a brilliant player, Sunderland fans.
Yeah, we'd have Matt as the Dan Ballard.
Oh, no.
I don't know. I'd be in the back three. Mepham's not there anymore, is he? So there you go. But yeah, let us know in the comment section below, guys, what you think. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Check on out Benjamin Bloom's channel, of course, and I'm sure all of you are. I know it's the only reason you are here, for him and Matt. Matt, as well as just where are you now? Is it 100,000, 10,000 on top of that? What's going on? How many thousand have you got now?
105 or 6.
No, not
probably.
that you're counting. Not that you're
No,
counting.
not that we're counting. No, we got the plaque. We got the plaque. We move on.
Make sure you check out Matt's channel as well, everybody. Links for both of them will be in the description below. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we will see you on the other side. Cheers.